Hi, this is Todd with the Charles McMurray Company. Back in the color studio today to talk about primers. And you may ask yourself, well, I use a primer or I don't use a primer. Why would I use one? Why wouldn't I? So we wanted to address some of the potential uses, why you wouldn't use it. Some people like to self-prime if they're using a conversion varnish. They're like, hey, I just want to tint or catalyze one product dealing with the same pot life all day, and I just self-prime because the color's there and I know I'm not going to get the color all the way through. In case I get a scratch or a chip or something, I'm not going to see the primer underneath. The advantages to using a primer are that primers tend to be less expensive, dry a little faster, and build better than maybe self-priming with your existing top coat. There are a lot of different primers that are out there in the field today, and we have a number of primers with ML Campbell that I want to address and show you. We have our quick dry vinyl primers. We have our pre-cap primers, VOC compliant. We have CV or 2K primers like our Claw Lock and our Claw Lock SL, high and low VOC products. And one of the up and coming products that seems to be gaining a lot of steam in the industry are waterborne primers, particularly universal primers. And what do I mean by universal? Universal primers are primers that you can put any top coat over, whether it be waterborne, a pre-cat lacquer, or even a conversion varnish. You can use those over the waterborne universal primers. Now we have two universal primers. Our best-selling product has been our Aquify Universal Primer. It's been out for a number of years. Fast drying, builds well, hangs excellent. You can spray up to 5 to 7 wet mills. And a newer primer is the Arroyo Primer. And this is a product that I want to touch on a little bit further into the video, but this product is probably one of the products I'm most excited about. To talk about where to use primers and why, I want to introduce you to a new team member to the Charles McMurray Company, and that's Rob. Rob Olivarez joins us. He handles the Southern California area for us and our Phoenix market, and he has a lot of experience dealing with coatings and understanding the values or the value of using particular primers in certain applications. So I wanted him to talk to you a little bit about what he sees in the field and our ability to offer a wide variety of primers and tinting them, and why you would want to do that. Rob?
Thanks for having me, Todd. Good to meet everybody out there. Yeah, on the topic of primers, the question comes up, like Todd said, is why, when, what's best. And one of the things that I firmly believe in is your environment is what's going to dictate that, your particular needs and demands. But we got something to service everybody. So in the high production environment where you're not limited to equipment or anything, and you want to cover the whole basis, a primer is excellent, as Todd said. Production from quick dry time, sandability, great build. That's a real benefit to the primers. The other thing that's a huge benefit if you're using the primer, Todd mentioned earlier about color all the way through if you're self-priming. Well, we had the ability to tint our primers. As you can see up here, we've taken our white primer, we've tinted it to a light tone, we've got a deeper gray. And the benefits of that are multifaceted. In the production environment in your shop, much better production time if you're using that primer. If you're going to do 2-3 coats, you'll turn those coats quicker because that primer does dry better. Sandability, much better sandability on a primer as opposed to the top coat because that's what it's there for. And if we've tinted it, you're going to get better hide, better coverage, and less impact of burn-throughs in the production process. So the question gets asked, what colors can we make in our primers? And I guess it would be, what primer are you going to use? So there's something called tint control when you're doing colors, and that's critical to making a color and recreating that color down the road. So we got two primers that are color tint controlled, and those would be our conversion varnish or our post-cap primers, and we have two options in that. It's the Claw Lock and the Quick Claw RTS. So in those, we can get you colors that are almost exactly the same as your top coat. And in some benefits of that is we have, especially in glaze jobs, some people will tint the primer to the color you want. They will clear coat it and glaze it. Wonderful. We have other customers that without glaze, that's still a great system for them because they can get their color in the primer. Clear coat lays down easily, gives you a nice, easy painted look. So those are the two that have color control, and we can really hit the color for you. In our water base and our other solvent primers, we can get you complementary colors, meaning that if you do a off-white, a pastel color, we can get close and complementary, but we don't hit a dead match on that. If you get to your darker colors, we'd recommend, like the mid-tones would be a light gray, and then your dark colors would be a black primer or a very dark gray. And this one here is our dark gray, which works very well under a black or a dark green. As we mentioned before, some colors can be problematic when you're putting them over a white primer. And we'd like to show you a couple of examples of the benefit of using a tinted primer when applying something like a green or a yellow color as opposed to going over a white primer. All right, so now we're here in the spray booth and we're going to show you what we were talking about, how some colors are a challenge when you're going over a white primer. So we got ourselves a nice green, and we're going to be going over our Arroyo, which is our waterborne universal primer. We've got 2 coats here on a maple frame with the MDF center panel, and here we go. So here we have a MDF routed door with 2 coats of our Arroyo tinted to a dark gray, and we're going to apply it with that green top coat, which is often a challenge on a white primer. Okay, as we mentioned before, this is an MDF routed door. And look at the fill and the build in that routed area of the MDF. This is 2 coats of our tinted gray, Arroyo primer tinted gray, with 1 coat of a green top coat on it. Gorgeous. Okay, so now we're going to take the next step and show you the benefits of that tinted primer we were speaking of. We got 2 doors here. One has a white primer and one has a gray. I've already done my sanding on it, and not uncommon that you're going to get some burn through. So you see with this white primer down here and on the edges, pretty pronounced. And depending on how much coating in the top coat you're using, you might have some challenges with your next coat. On this door with the gray primer, again, we've got burn through on our edges, which again, they're there and it's less pronounced. So our next coat will apply superior and give us a much better hide without having to bury it with a lot of product. Okay, so what we have here is 2 coats of our white primer tinted to a dark gray, and that's going over a routed MDF door. Then we have a single application of a very dark color, which is made out of a clear base, and typically that's your most problematic for the challenges of hide and burn through and coverage. And with just 1 coat, we've achieved a very nice full look. And then just keep in mind what we were talking about previously. If you're using it with just a white primer, the burn throughs are more significant. The hide and the coverage can be a challenge in some of those darker colors.
Here's an example of a door that's been primed with the standard base white primer and then a tinted primer to a dark gray. What we want to do is show you the contrast with a very difficult color on the difference of what a tinted primer can do to achieve good hide. So here's the door done with 2 coats of red. You can see a distinctive line through the middle where we had the standard base white primer and the other half done in a dark gray. This is 2 coats of the red. Colors like red, yellows, greens, and some blues can be very problematic to get hide without multiple coats. Here we've used the dark primer, and if you can see here, the very bottom color is that red, which most closely matches the top half that was done in a dark gray with 2 coats. The bottom will require at least another coat or 2 to achieve the match.
Welcome back, Todd.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate your help on this. So when you're painting a job and you'd like to find a way of achieving a quick hide, getting the job with maybe 1 less coat, primers are an excellent option for you. So again, we have a whole plethora of white-based primers that we can tint. We have controlled tinted primer bases. And if you'd like to learn more, feel free to give either Rob or myself a call here at the Charles McMurray Company, and we'd be glad to come by and do a demo for you and show you the advantages of using our primers. Thanks for your time.